If you've been researching treatments for hair loss, there's one medication that comes up over and over again: finasteride. It's one of the most studied treatments we have for male pattern baldness, and for many men, it's the very first medication doctors prescribe. The problem is, when you read scientific studies, you usually get graphs, percentages, hair counts, but rarely do you get to see what real people actually look like before and after treatment. So today, that's exactly what we are going to do. You guys have gone through dozens of Reddit progress posts and picked out some of the most interesting finasteride-only transformations for me to comment on. So we will look at how much hair they regrew, how long it took, whether they experienced side effects, and after every case, I will explain what I think they did right, what they could have done better, and most importantly, what you can realistically expect if you decide to take finasteride yourself. Alright, I've actually been looking forward to this one. This is probably the most famous finasteride-only transformation Reddit has ever produced. Okay, let's see if it still lives up to the hype. Okay, he was definitely losing ground. Hairline recession, thinning through the front. Not terrible, but yeah, definitely noticeable. What? Hold on. That's finasteride only? No minoxidil? Seriously? Okay, scroll, let's make sure. Yep, finasteride only, nothing else. That's honestly insane. Now, before everyone watching this thinks, perfect, that's exactly what's going to happen to me, there is something really important to notice. Look closely at his starting point. Yes, his hairline had receded, but he still had hair. Lots of thinner, miniaturized hairs that hadn't disappeared completely. And I have the feeling it's probably going to be one of the biggest themes we're going to notice throughout this video. The people who get the best results almost always start early. That's because finasteride isn't creating brand new hair follicles. Its main job is to protect follicles that are still alive by lowering DHT, the hormone responsible for male pattern baldness. If those follicles are still there, even if they are weak and small, they've got a chance to recover. But once a follicle has been gone for years, there isn't much less for finasteride to save. So if this first post teaches us one lesson, it's this: the earlier you start, the better your chances. Now, that result was incredible, but it was also an outliner. So let's see something a little more realistic. Alright, next one. 3 months. Already, I'm curious, because 3 months is really early. Definitely thinning, especially in the crown area. Oh, actually, that's really solid improvement, especially considering that it's only been 3 months. Let's see what he says. 1 milligram finasteride every day, no minoxidil. Interesting. This is actually a really good point to explain what finasteride does, because a lot of people misunderstand it. Finasteride isn't really a growth stimulant like minoxidil or microneedling. What finasteride really does, well, is to lower DHT, which allows damaged follicles to recover. Minoxidil and microneedling work differently. These two are called stimulating treatments, and they actually push follicles to grow. That is why when I look at some of these Reddit posts, I can't help thinking, I wonder what would have happened if this guy had also added topical minoxidil. And if you're watching my channel before, you probably know I'm also a huge fan of combining topical minoxidil with microneedling. Why? Because those two treatments complement each other incredibly well. Topical minoxidil is one of the strongest hair regrowth stimulants we have. Microneedling, on the other hand, appears to boost its effects by creating tiny microchannels in the skin, improving drug delivery, while also triggering wound healing pathways and growth factors that stimulate hair follicles. In fact, several clinical studies have found that combining topical minoxidil with microneedling leads to substantially better results than topical minoxidil alone, with some studies reporting around 2 to 3 times greater increases in hair counts. So while today's video is all about finasteride only, I think it is worth remembering that these aren't competing treatments. They do different jobs. Finasteride protects your hair, topical Minoxidil stimulates it, and microneedling helps you get even more out of topical Minoxidil. Now, before you start thinking, so should I expect crazy regrowth after 3 months? Let's keep going, because the next few posts might tell a very different story. So far, we've looked at 2 really impressive transformations, but if I am being honest, they are probably not what the average person should expect. The average finasteride user doesn't wake up after 3 months with a brand new hairline. For most people, the changes are much slower and much more subtle. And I actually think that's where the next few posts become much more useful, because you guys told me that they are a bit more realistic. Alright, this one is 6 months. Let's see. Okay, definitely thinning through the whole scalp, not just the crown. You know what? I actually like this one. It's not one of those, oh my god, it's just solid progress. The crown still isn't perfect, but it definitely looks so much thicker. If you put the before and after next to one another, it becomes very clear how much regrowth happened in 6 months for this guy. I think this is one of the healthiest posts we have looked at so far, because it reminds us of what success actually looks like. For a lot of people, success isn't regrowing their teenage hairline. Success is simply slowing the process down, making their hair thicker. And remember, 6 months is still relatively early. Most studies show that finasteride continues improving results well beyond that point. Now, if you're wondering what happens after a full year, we also apparently have an example of this next. Alright, 1 year. Again, he starts reasonably early. I don't really see too much hairline recession. Okay, that's nice. The density definitely improved. Hairline almost perfect, isn't it? And this is exactly what I keep noticing. The people with the biggest improvements aren't usually the people with the worst starting point. They are the people who had something to save. I know I keep repeating this, but honestly, it's probably the biggest lesson from this entire video. Don't wait. Hair follicles don't disappear overnight. They spend years becoming thinner, shorter, and weaker. That's actually your window of opportunity, because finasteride works best while those follicles are still alive. Once they are completely gone, there is much less medication can do. Now, this next post is another 1 year update, I believe. And I actually like this because I would prefer seeing what to realistically expect long term of using hair regrowth treatments. Let's see. Pretty noticeable thinning in the middle. He has curly hair, which helped probably to hide the hair loss for a time. So here it must be very advanced if we are able to see it so much. Let's look at the after. Wow, nice. Again, this one could actually be a crazy viral transformation. It's definitely a big improvement. Interesting. He's literally been taking 1 milligram of finasteride every day for a year. That's it. Nothing fancy. I think one thing these 1 year posts really highlight is that finasteride rewards consistency, not intensity. You don't need to change your routine every month because somebody on TikTok said rosemary oil is the next miracle cure. You just need time, consistency, and realistic expectation. But there's something else I've noticed. Almost all of the strongest responders we have looked at so far started treatment before their hair loss became severe. That's why if you're watching this and you've only recently started noticing your hair loss, please don't convince yourself it's not bad enough yet. Ironically, that's exactly when treatment has the greatest chance of working. Now, so far, we've looked at people after 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, but one question still remains. What happens if you just keep taking finasteride? Does it stop working? Do the results disappear? Or can it actually maintain your hair for years? Let's find out. All right, this one's 2 years. Okay, definitely thinning before, yeah? Wow, that's actually a nice improvement. You know what's interesting? This doesn't look like someone who's exploded with hair overnight. It looks like someone who's slowly got better month after month. That is impressive because he regrew his hairline almost 100%. Other posts I have seen show that finasteride regrows well the crown area, but it's not so good at regrowing the temple area. Interesting. He's literally stayed on finasteride, no crazy routine, no secret biohack. Now, I wanted to finish with probably the most interesting post of all. Not because it has the biggest transformation, but because it's something we almost never get to see. 6 years taking finasteride. That's commitment. Let's see. The before, the after. Yeah, honestly, I love posts like this because almost nobody comes back after 6 years. Most people disappear. They either stop taking treatment or they simply move on with their lives. So seeing someone update after 6 years is actually really valuable. Okay, so still finasteride, still taking it, still maintaining. That's honestly impressive. And I think this is actually the perfect place to clear up one of the biggest misconceptions about finasteride. People often ask, will finasteride regrow all my hair? Honestly, probably not. For most people, at least, what it will do is build the basis. It will stop hair loss and provide a bit of hair regrowth. But the most insane regrowth results I have seen in my entire life came from people who also added microneedling and minoxidil. You have seen a few incredible responders today, but that's not what finasteride is really designed to do. Its biggest strengths is preservation. The biggest success stories in this video almost always have one thing in common. They started before the damage became irreversible. So, what's the verdict? Can finasteride regrow hair? Absolutely. Can it completely reverse advanced baldness? Usually not. But I'm impressed with today's results. Can it maintain your hair for years? Based on the scientific literature and the real-world experiences we have looked at today, yes. For many people, it absolutely can. And I honestly think that's the biggest takeaway from this video. Finasteride isn't a miracle, but if you start early, stay consistent, and have realistic expectations, it can make an enormous difference. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what I should comment on next. And if you want to see people's minoxidil and microneedling results, click here. Until next time, I wish you a happy hair journey. Bye.